What is your nationality?
My nationality is Afro-American.
What is freedom?
Freedom is black power.
What is black power?
Black power is...
Do you know what black power is?
No.
Well, then you should never should never make any statements if you don't know what they mean.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
All right. How old are you, young man?
I am 4 years old.
You're not 4, Eric. Now, you tell me your right age. How old are you? How old are you?
I am 4 years old.
Are you sure you're 4?
Yes.
You're going to let me turn you around and tell you you're some other age? You're 6 years old, Eric.
No.
I can't hear you, Eric.
No.
Are you being frightened by me?
No.
I'm a teacher. I said you're 6.
I am 4 years old.
All right, then. You stand up for it, then. You shouldn't be weak. You stand up and say it. You ought to scream it in my face if I try to tell you different, right?
Yes.
Have a seat. Stand up, young man. Are you a Negro, Travis?
No.
Are you a flunky, Travis?
No.
What are you?
I am black and beautiful.
And what else are you? Are you a boy?
No.
What are you?
I'm a man.
What kind of man?
Black and beautiful man.
Or what kind? Are you an old man or a young man?
Young man.
You, young man, you come here. You're a Negro.
No.
I am your teacher. You are a Negro.
No.
Suppose I threatened to beat you, what would you say? Aren't you a Negro now?
No.
What are you?
I'm black and beautiful.
What is your nationality?
My nationality is Afro-American.
Suppose I had some money in my pocket. Suppose I gave you $1 to say that you're an American Negro. This is money now. Money talks. Money talks. This dollar. And if you don't say it, you don't get it. You're an American Negro, aren't you?
No.
You won't have any money. You know you need money, don't you?
Yes.
You need money to live, don't you?
Yes.
All right. All you have to say, Leon, is that you're an American Negro. Aren't you an American Negro? Are you an American Negro?
No.
What are you?
I'm black and beautiful.
What's your nationality?
My nationality is Afro-American.
Very good, man. Keep it up. Go sit down. You had to think about that a minute, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right. All right, everybody. What is your nationality?
My nationality is Afro-American.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Cause this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're gonna give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go. You know what it is? It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, a.k.a. Mr. Excessive Celebration, a.k.a. I am fresh off that second vaccine shot, and I was struggling, y'all, but I'm encouraging everyone to get vaccinated. As you saw in the intro to the show, we are going to get deep today, and it has been a very deep week for all of us. We've dealt with a lot of things as the news has shown us the tragedies across America. But for a lot of those of your friends and neighbors, a lot of the black people in your lives, we've been saying this for so long, and we've said it on the Ball Hog Sports Talk show for a long time. Is that the MVP of this movement, of this moment, has been the technology that is showing some of it. So we're gonna dive right in. As you saw, that was from CBS of Black America, July 1968. And those kids. In that moment, we're learning things about pride, learning things about themselves, and also learning how in certain situations to just say no. Today's episode, Just Say No. We know that Just Say No was in the 80s and the 90s, this war on drugs that ravished the Black community. And we're going to show you how that same phrase plays in today's show with an action-packed show. So with no further ado, let's dive on in. It's the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. We only know how to do it one way, rough, rugged, and raw. So strap on your seatbelt and let's go. First segment is one that is our legacy. It's 3 and a possible, like a pretty average spades hand. We got Meredith Benson in the house yet again in her third week of showing us some pearls, pun intended, because she has no pearls, some pearls of wisdom when it comes to sports. And also my man, Big Flo from the Big Flo. Well, it used to be from the Big Flo show. I'm just going to say Big Flo of the Ball Hawk Sports.
I'll take that. What's good, America?
What's good? It's good.
What's good?
It's 3 and a possible. You know what it is, man. We're going to hop right in. It's you guys saw the intro. You know, it's one of those things where you see a teacher back in 1968 needing to teach these young people how to refer themselves, how to be confident, how to position themselves in this America. And in 2021, the latest saga where in Chicago, where this 13-year-old boy was just killed, we still got a lot to talk about. But we're going to do it in the context of sports, business, and entertainment. Is that all right? Let's hop on in. Meredith, I see you trying to get the thing right. But don't even worry about it. As long as we can hear you, you good. That's how everybody knows this is live TV. Like we ask you every single week. We ask you humbly, please like, please comment, please share. Tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, because the Ball Hawk Sports Talk is here to stay. And if you're listening to us in the podcast world, we ask you to subscribe and tell other people so they can subscribe too. With no further ado, with that intro, how do we dare not start with this story from the NBA this week? The Brooklyn Nets and the LA Lakers, they played, and it was an undermanned LA Lakers team. No LeBron, no KD, no Kuzma, yet and still they whooped the Brooklyn Nets. And you would think that that would be the story of that particular game, but the story was my man, Kyrie Irving of New Jersey, and Dennis Schroeder. And these two got ejected from the game. People were questioning whether or not they should have been ejected because it was just a verbal back and forth. But after the verbal back and forth, we are led to believe, based on Kyrie's comments, that Dennis Schroeder called him the N-word. Kyrie not only called him out for it, but also called everybody out for it for using the word. He unequivocally said that we are not going to flip the use of it. We are not going to own it. We're not going to do anything positive related to that word, and called on everybody to stop using it. What did y'all think, man? This show, Just Say No. Kyrie's asking us to just say no to the N-word. What say you guys? I'll start with you, Meredith.
I think different people have different, views on the word. As he said, some people have it as a term of endearment. Some people are totally against the word in any form, as he stated in his Twitter. I think it's a tough call. It's in music, it's in culture. I don't want to hear it from a white person. But I think, if that's Kyrie's standard, then, people have to know where he stands on that. And so that they know that they can't, say that to him. As long as they know, then they shouldn't use it. If he feels that strongly about it, even, with another Black person in the conversation says it to him. So I think, if people know that's his standard, then they should respect that.
How about you, Big Flo? I know you and I have both been in the locker room. And an appropriately placed, and Kyrie saying there is no appropriately placed use of the word, but we've been in the locker room and we've heard the word used not in a derogatory way. And what Kyrie is saying, that there is no okay use of it. What do you think about it?
When I first went down, I thought about, him kind of grandstanding and making a big thing about it. I mean, they already getting blew out, so I guess it didn't matter. So maybe that was his chance for his platform. After reading the statement and how he put it together, I kind of looked at it. I gotta respect it, right? I gotta respect your stance. If that's something that you feel strongly about, and that you don't want to allow somebody to use the word, to call you the word, you want to make a standard for yourself, I respect it. If I was in a situation and another black man told me don't call him that, I would do every effort, make sure not to use that word against him, because that's your right. If that's not what you want to be called. Your name is Brainerd, but you like to be called Bobby, so I call you Bobby, right? So that's up to you. If you tell me that's what you want me to call you, then that's what I'm gonna call you. I had to
you need to officially watch out for your tires, bro. I'm coming to Chicago. You gonna say my government name, my whole government
name. Oh, you gotta be proud of that name. Yeah, but I looked at it. I thought it was a little bit too much during the game. You know what I mean? But then again, when I look at the score of the game, if he was planning to plant that statement and make a big deal about it so he could get it out, I could see why it's a publicity stunt. But I did think it was a little overboard, because just based off the body language, I felt like I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. The guy he was engaged with was calm as heck. Schroeder was calm. Like he had his hands on his hips. He wasn't talking to him like aggressively. He was just kind of like, what's going on, man? Why are we doing this? And then he blows up. That part of it seemed a little funny, but if he was just doing it so he could get onto his platform, then I'll give it to him.
Yeah, I think in that exchange is when the N-word was probably used, and Dennis Schroeder, I would go out on a limb and say, probably didn't understand the depth in which Kyrie felt about the word, and that's what triggered that back and forth. Look, there have been some of our audience members, Love Dog, I don't know if he's watching today, but one of my fraternity brothers, he is called for an all-out ban of the word in any context, and other people have as well. And I think Kyrie using his platform to say it loud and proud, respect to him, man, because as we saw in 1968, people fought not to be called certain things, right? And there was a struggle. Are we Afro-Americans? Are we African-Americans? Are we Black? There's been so many different struggles that we've had with our own identities. So to then use the word ourselves seems to be contradictory. It seems to undermine our efforts. And so I get where Kyrie's coming from it, but at the same time, you're right, Meredith, it's in the songs, it's in so many things that we consider pop culture. So we shall see. All right. On the other side of pop culture, where I think is an amazing story, and it's going to connect to our amazing guest today, is Black Girl Magic, like none other. The Black Girl Magic that we saw is throughout the season, but even more so now, because we're going to see them covered on the cover of Essence, are the gymnasts from UCLA. We've seen that these young ladies have not assimilated. In terms of their artistry, we've seen that these ladies have taken what would be considered Black culture and politely but proudly inserted that into their own routines, into their own performances. And so these same young ladies, and I'll say their name, Shay Campbell, Nia Dennis, Margzetta Frazier, and Sakai Wright will be on the cover of Essence magazine. I think it's really cool. In terms of just say no, they absolutely just say no in terms of assimilating. They have proudly been Black in all that they've done in their routines. Quickly, what did you guys think about it before we move on?
I think it's amazing. I love it. I love that they're showing their Black girl power, their magic, their culture, standing up for what they feel is who they are as gymnasts, as young women. And I think for so long, the gymnastics world has been dominated by white culture, and this is their opportunity, they feel, to be able to express themselves as Black young ladies, and I love it.
What I liked about it the most when I saw the picture is nothing about the picture said gymnast or athlete, and I thought that was probably the most special part of it. It was an Essence cover. They were dressed up, they looked nice. Other than everybody showing off how diesel their legs were, muscular their leg were, you wouldn't know who it was. If you looked at the cover, you'd be like, who's this? And I kind of like that, because I think that, women get minimized just for, or athletes in general, just your athletic ability. And this is what's going on. I think that to be able to switch over and be like, I'm an athlete, but I'm also, you know, a Black woman that stand independently of me being an athlete. I don't know. That's what stood out to me when I saw the picture.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, and yes, they were phenomenally built as well as the shoot showed. But if you hear their interviews, I mean, the most amazing young ladies as they're engaging with the interviewer. They don't seem like it just seemed well beyond their years. They understand the sacrifice that their parents have made for them to be so successful when it comes to gymnastics. They understand the sacrifice of introducing Black culture into what has been a very white sport. They understand the moment, and they're not shying away from it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. The one that was my favorite was Margzetta Frazier. Her response was just, I mean, you know, in this interview. So I encourage everyone to buy the Essence magazine. I know we won't buy magazines anymore, but buy this particular magazine with these young ladies on the cover of it. Pay attention to their interview, support them, because the NCAA gymnastics finals is coming up. I think it starts this weekend. Let's support these sisters, man, because they have supported us in our culture, despite being in what I would consider predominantly a white sport. I got to move on to this Baylor basketball coach, Scott Drew. I guess Scott Drew, they won the NCAA men's championship, we know. But Scott Drew just said no when it came to this dealership. This particular GM of a Jeep dealership, he in Waco, Texas, when what's her name? McCauley, I'll mess up her name. Sorry,
Kim McCauley.
Kim
Mulkey. Kim Mulkey.
Mulkey. I mispronounced her name. When Kim Mulkey won the national championship, she got to drive this car. So when Baylor's men's coach won, Scott Drew won, he was offered a Jeep, and it was going to be a customized Jeep, national championship Jeep. But in describing it, this GM basically said, come on, man, you can drive this Jeep so you can recruit and get kids out of the hood. And his use of the word hood set a lot of people off. Scott Drew politely said no to the Jeep because he wanted to make a statement about the use of the reference hood. I'll start with you on this one, Big Flo. What did you think about it?
I'm glad he did. I'm glad he turned it down. I just think people are like, this good old boy, like, oh, yeah, you're going to hood. These brothers will come running around this car. We'll be doing all this, coming on back down to Baylor. Get out of here, man. You know what I mean? Like, you ruining the moment. I'm glad he didn't just turn the other cheek. You know, I'm glad he had attention. You know, obviously people want an opportunity to drive a nice car, and kind of thought about that when you were that little kid had to pause for that buck in our video before. He's like, I don't know, for a buck, maybe I will sell out. But he's like, nah, for this car, go and keep your car, man. Go ahead and do that. And, you know, I really appreciated him for doing that.
Meredith?
So if you watch the interview, when he was actually speaking, when he said the word hood, he kind of like, realized that he probably shouldn't have said that, right? And so there was no other choice for Drew to not accept it, because even in the moment, as the GM was saying it, he knew that it was probably the exact wrong thing to say. And I'm glad that Drew stepped back and was like, no, I'm good. I'm not interested in this vehicle.
Yeah, and this
players, that would have been terrible.
Absolutely. In this fight, we need allies. And I think that, Shannon Sharp's comments about you don't have Black friends, you have Black associates. If you can't empathize, if you have no empathy, you don't have Black friends, you have Black associates. I think the same is true here, because the allies, people that understand that there is a struggle and that the perception of Black America is so disconnected from reality. Because let's be truthful here. A lot of the student athletes that are being recruited now are second generation, right? Because their parents went to college, right? We'll have someone on later today whose father went to college, right? So it went to Notre Dame, and the whole image of we're going into the hood and rescuing people and saving their lives is a bit outdated and unfortunately overplayed. So I love that Scott Drew was a real ally, because the allies have to just say no to some of these things too. So good for him, Scott Drew. I love it. In another coaching situation at East Tennessee State University, an ally, a coach was fired. This coach was white, was fired, we believe, and I say we because the players came out and spoke in the Players Tribune. They believe that he was fired because he supported them in taking a knee. Eastern Tennessee State University, this white coach was fired after his first year, had been an assistant for a long time. After 1 year was fired, and there were signs that there were trouble because, again, access to a free car was revoked because these players were taking a knee. The players were accosted on campus and approached pretty aggressively. And it's one of those situations where you could kind of see the signs. The coach was fired. They replaced him with a black coach, but the players, to their credit, didn't just sit by quietly. They went and they spoke out in the Players Tribune. One player wrote what I thought was an amazing piece in support of his coach. I'll start with you on this one, Meredith. What do you think about the story at East Tennessee State University and their basketball coach being fired for supporting his players taking a knee?
First, I just want to say that I just want to give a shout out to the passionate letter article that the athlete wrote. I think using his voice to be able to talk about how the team felt, gave the beautiful background of how the coach became the head coach. I think it really talked about the story of the players, and it brought forward what they went through and how the coach stood by them time and time again. And so I think it's just terrible that this university would fire him as a backlash for the team kneeling and him standing with the team kneeling, especially in the time when it all went down and when it happened. So I really love the fact that this player used his voice to bring attention to this circumstance of this coach being fired. So I just want to give a shout out to the athletes who are standing with their coach, using their voice in this manner to bring attention to what happened in the situation. And I hope that it somehow is rectified.
Great. Big Flo?
I think, at the end of the day, it just reminds you, a few years ago, University of Missouri had a situation where the players said that they were not going to play a football game unless something went down. I think they got their provost fired because of a racial incident. And the coach supported them in that, right? At the end of that year, that coach was fired. Right. And so I think what happens is, for optics, schools are going to do whatever they going to do in the beginning. But at the end of the day, if you can't get them boys in line, they're going to come get you, right? And I think that it's good that we're putting that out to light, because you know what? When the guy got fired from Missouri, you didn't really hear about it. I don't know if you remember that, the football coach, you didn't really hear about it. But you better believe the reason why he was fired is because he didn't get them boys in line. They took care of the provost, but they got to come get one of yours too. And I just think that we're a time in society where there's no more staying quiet. There's no more letting things go idly by. Unfortunately, sometimes we go overboard on some things, but that's what has to happen. When something's crooked, you got to bend it back the other way before you can get it to be straight, right? So I think at the end of the day, I'm glad that these kids are standing up and they have a voice and they're saying what they're going to say. Shout out to the coach for standing up for for his players, which is what he believes in. And shame on East Tennessee State.
Slight correction, because one of our audience members, we really appreciate your input, said that Coach Pinkel retired. But I would imagine if you sat Coach Pinkel down, the retirement might have been put forth a little bit quicker. It was rushed, because when you stand up and do something, say something on behalf of your players and do what you think is right, and you get pushback from people, it's got to feel like, what world do we live in? And these players from East Tennessee State University said that they had been asked by everyone to just shut up and play basketball. And thank goodness that they were willing to just say no. We're not going to do that, because in the same America that, and I'm not getting emotional today. I promise myself I'm not going to do it, because at some point you got to wipe the tears away and figure out solutions. But in the same America where you can see the things that happened over the last week, when you see athletes trying to use their position, use their platform to take a knee and say enough is enough, that we should be encouraging that young people have the wherewithal to take that stand. And so the adults, and I should put an air quote, the adults in the room that are trying to prevent their universities or their coaches from being associated with such amazing social activism by young adults need to be ashamed of themselves. I'm happy that we do have people that can just say no. All right, next story. Because we're going to get moving. We got such an amazing guest coming up, y'all, during the sports freestyle. So don't go anywhere. Make sure that you locked and loaded. I'll give one hint. Because I didn't really promote it. I wanted people that were in here to get the blessing of what they're going to get. We got a UCLA women's basketball player coming to the second quarter, the sports freestyle. And it's an interview that you won't want to miss. UCLA, I think, is synonymous. And I should have acknowledged that, we just celebrated Jackie Robinson Day, right? It's synonymous with social activism. And so, yeah, I'll leave it there. That's the only teaser I'm going to give. Stay tuned. All right, next story that we're going to go in 3 and a possible is Edelman retires. And so he was cut because he failed the physical. And he put up this retirement video of him in Foxborough, and he ends it with Foxborough forever. And now the questions immediately start coming up whether or not Julian Edelman will be a Hall of Famer. I'll start with because even how they cut him. I mean, he got a $2 million bonus. The team was able to save $800,000. So even how they cut him was sort of different. The Patriot way, shall I say. What did you guys think about Edelman retiring? I'll start with you, Big Flo.
I mean, obviously, everyone thought he was going to try to get on to Tampa, but if he couldn't pass the physical, I don't know exactly why he couldn't pass the physical, but he probably knew it was time to go. But yeah, I mean, they definitely let him ride off into the sunset. I mean, hell, even Brady, that turned out to be kind of ugly the way that finished up. Everybody else, it's kind of ugly, but they found a way to put $2 million in his pocket, slide a little something in his coffers before he walked out the door. I don't know. I don't have a problem with Edelman. Tough player, but I when you start talking Hall of Fame, there's a lot of people they put down ahead of him, like Reggie Wayne or Hines Ward. So I don't really want to hear about him in the Hall of Fame until we get some other people that have been a lot better than him in the Hall of Fame.
How about you, Meredith?
I will start by saying I am not a Patriots fan. Number one.
That's like somebody said.
I don't care if you retire, you go to another team. I'm not about the Patriots in any way, shape, or form. But I think it was a very good, whoever his publicist is and marketing team, they did a beautiful job of making sure that he was going to be heralded as he left Foxborough Stadium. And so I'm sure that there's more things to come from a marketing perspective. So this is just the beginning of him, as his, leaving his legacy in New England. So, if he can get it, go ahead and get it done. And, I don't think he would be a Hall of Famer right now. As T-Flo said, there's other players who put up better stats before him that need to go into the Hall of Fame. But he's also, a 2 or 3 time, Super Bowl champion. So he has that, where other players might have better stats, but they don't have that championship behind their name. So I do think he will be a Hall of Famer because of that, because he was part of the Patriots during the time of Brady. So look for it to happen, because it will happen. But again, I am not a Patriots fan.
I love that. How you started with that and ended with that. That's like somebody saying no disrespect right before they say something real disrespectful. I like it. You know what I mean? I will say this. When it comes to, I know this is not traffic court, but I'm going to make a case out of this anyway. When it comes to the case of Julian Edelman making it to the Hall of Fame, I answer with just say no. Absolutely not. He does not have a Hall of Fame career. Does he have a Hall of Fame smile? Maybe. Does he have a Hall of Fame treatment when it comes to Foxborough? Maybe. Is he a Hall of Fame great white hope? Absolutely. He played a position that not a lot of white guys play, and he played it well. But a Hall of Fame career, no. He has a Super Bowl MVP, which is impressive, and his playoff stats are very impressive. But there are a lot of great players that played on bad teams that didn't get the opportunities that Julian Edelman got in the playoffs. And so you can't base a Hall of Fame decision on playoff stats. And that's what those who are standing behind this Julian Edelman should be in the Hall of Fame asinine statement. That's what they are trying to use as their evidence. Look, man, Julian Edelman will be in someone's broadcast booth like tomorrow. And even in his retirement, right? Because several players retire. But when you get cut because you didn't pass a physical, he had a bad knee. Normally, the organization doesn't put you in the stadium. Allow you to record this well-produced video, right?
Take your playbook, right?
What normally happens is you got to get out of the facility immediately. You got to leave the facility. Not only did he
treat you like a criminal, like you put this in the box.
He in the middle of Foxborough. I'm like, what's going on, man? If this ain't the most privileged thing I've ever seen. But shout out to Julian Edelman for a great career that I happen to believe was not a Hall of Fame career. And shout out to the Patriots, because the Patriots way, boy, if they can figure out a loophole, I mean, somehow that man got $2 million extra on the way out. Somehow they saved $800,000 off the salary cap. Like, look, man, sometimes it pays to be crooked. Y'all go ahead, Patriots. Go ahead with your cheating selves. In another retirement that was abrupt, Lamarcus Aldridge, who had a great career at the young, ripe age of 35 years old, he decided to retire because he had an irregular heartbeat. And so first and foremost, shout out to him. Our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. But I thought that was interesting in the sense that, you know, everyone who Team LeBron, right, was real upset when the Brooklyn Nets got Lamarcus Aldridge. And it seemed to shift the focus on it's the championship that Brooklyn is theirs to lose. But now Lamarcus Aldridge will not be on the court for the Brooklyn Nets. And I love the fact that he was able to just say no to basketball and focus on his health and his family, because you only get one life. So, you know, we send our thoughts and prayers to Lamarcus Aldridge. I don't know if you guys had anything before we moved on, but just definitely wanted to at least acknowledge his retirement.
Definitely a great loss to the Brooklyn team. You know, he was amazing ball player, but, you know, your family and that comes first, and your health comes first. So, you know, shout out to him, shout out to his family. And we're sorry to see him go, but we want him to be around to tell the story.
Yeah,
I'm glad they caught it. You know, I'm glad it was kind of weird that something that, you know, you guys get poked and prodded so much when you're in the professional ranks. I'm surprised they just now found it. So hopefully something just developed and it's something that they can fix really quick. And,
right,
you know, maybe the blessing in disguise is he can just turn the page at 35 and still have some knees left and still have some ankle left.
Yep, I agree. So those are the retires, fired and retired. Now we're gonna get into the new hires. I feel like we in the HR division right now. But the new hires are gonna be these quarterbacks. And I gotta admit, there must be a double standard, because Trevor Lawrence came out the side of his face in an interview, basically said, I'm out to prove absolutely nothing. I don't play with a chip on my shoulder because that's not the way I live my life. Then his dad doubled down and said he isn't a win a championship at all costs type of person. And, you know, different coaches at different levels came and supported it. And people, they applauded it. And I was shocked because just, you know, 2 weeks ago, we talked about Darren Orlovsky. And we talked about Chris Mortensen questioning whether or not Justin Fields was committed enough to football. And while Trevor Lawrence might feel that way, let me just go out on a limb and say, because I got the opportunity to play for Urban Meyer as a wide receiver playing at the University of Notre Dame. He was my receiver coach for 4 years. And he might not be a win a championship at all cost type of guy, Trevor Lawrence, but you about to play for it's like, you better believe Coach Meyer would. Look, I have nothing but respect for him, nothing but love for Coach, what he did for me as a player, what he did for me as a man. But that man want to win. And you going to go play for somebody that's a win at all cost type of coach. Quickly, what did you guys think about it in the comparison contrast, how they talked about Justin Fields? This is a 30-second round, so I'll start with you, Meredith. What do you think?
I mean, on a certain level, I kind of like it, because I feel like, you know, he got his head on straight, and, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, mental health and those kind of things. And so his idea that, you know, I'm going to play hard because I want to play hard because I want to win, but I'm not going to let that have a chip on my shoulder, because not every athlete is created like that. You know, every athlete doesn't have to walk around with a chip on their shoulder to show that they're going to be the toughest, that they're going to do what they need to do on the football field. So in some ways, I like it. In contrast to the other player last week, I mean, you know, it's tough to say. We'll see what happens on the field. We'll see if he gets drafted number 1. We'll see what happens.
What do you think, Big Flo, before we get out of here?
I'm hoping that by him saying that it takes a little bit off of Fields, like what they're trying to say. I don't even know where the Field stuff comes from, but I don't have a problem with him saying he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He's calm, cool, and collected. I mean, if you look at Tom Brady, the way that he tries to carry himself, he always acts unfazed by everything. Like he's cool. I can handle this. I can do it. So I think that your quarterback needs to be chill. He doesn't need to be the super aggressive. I need to go, monster. That's how you make mistakes. That's how you end up like Brett Favre throwing picks for no reason because you're trying to force it. But I just hope that I'm just going to hope that after him saying that, some people take a step back and look at the things he said about Fields and say, you know what, you're right. It doesn't have to be like this. Although I don't know where the hell the Field stuff came from. I think they just made that up anyway. But I'm not going to hate on Trevor Lawrence just because people are hard on Fields, because I want them both to be treated the same way.
Got it. All right. Well, I just say no to double standards. And this one, and I don't need y'all to weigh in at all, because there's only one Cleveland Browns fan among us in this Three and the Possible, and it happens to be me. I am very excited about
and
the
I
Browns.
doubt that you really are a fan.
I'm a fan, brother.
I'm
a fan. Proudly. Dog pound root.
They must still owe you some back end money. You might have some back end.
You better believe they do. You better believe they do. Jadeveon Clowney was signed by the Browns, and he's not joking around. He absolutely has a chip on his shoulder. He's out to prove that indeed he is still a great player. I love having a player with a chip on his shoulder. Yeah, all of that stuff is good with Trevor Lawrence, but I want to play with a chip on his shoulder. I want somebody with something to prove. I want somebody that's hungry. I want somebody that wants a big contract. Jadeveon Clowney, go get that money. He on the other side of Myles Garrett. Prove to everybody that you are still an elite defensive end. All right. And then we're going to hop out. Actually, we got one more. I'll say this. The Cleveland Browns should be, and this is just for smart money, should be the odds favorite to win the AFC. And I'll leave it there. That's all. Eddie George. Yeah, Eddie George. That's why I let y'all weigh in. Look at the facial expressions. Haters. What haters?
I ain't
you
nothing
about to
to
say. I don't want to be disrespectful.
I would turn my back on you.
The Eddie George is running back to the sidelines as a head coach at Tennessee State University. We talked about the Deion effect. Now we got Eddie George, who is not a Hall of Famer. He's a college football Hall of Famer, but not a Hall of Famer. Eddie George is not a Hall of Famer. How are we talking about Julian Edelman? Anyway, Eddie George will be a head coach for Tennessee State University. And not only did Deion congratulate him publicly, he's already made, I think, a splash when it comes to coaching. He got Mr. January 31st. That's what we call him in Cleveland. That's Hugh Jackson, because he was 1-31 in 2 years. So we call him January 31st. That's what I call him. He got Hugh Jackson.
He should stay on site. On site. I don't care. On site. He's supposed to come at you. As soon as he sees you, no words, on site. Yeah. On site.
It's a matter of fact, I'm coming with my setup just in case. But Hugh Jackson will be the offensive coordinator. What do you guys think? This new phenomenon about NFL greats, NFL coaches with a lot of NFL experience now taking their talents to HBCU land. Is this the new wave? What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Meredith.
It's been a long time coming. I know HBCUs are excited to have the talent and the amazing athletic ability to come to HBCUs and bring capacity to the university. So I'm excited for it. I know the athletes and the students and the whole HBCU network is excited for it. And I think it brings nothing but, revenue to the organizations. And, it could put back the HBCUs where it used to be, because HBCUs are where, ball players came out of in order to go to the NFL. So this is kind of a return to that. So as long as you have the coaches and you have the facilities and you have the trainers and you have the whole setup available to the players, I think this is a great opportunity for the HBCUs.
Big Flo.
I just like to say, don't talk about it, be about it. I feel like there's been so much talk over the last year, especially on social media, the chat, and why don't we do this, why don't we do that? And people are making moves. The HBCUs are stepping up, finding ways to get these guys to come over. I don't know if they got some special money for them, or these guys are doing it on the cheap just because they believe in it. But, Eddie George, I like that he's bringing in different coaches, what I'm saying, from the NFL, bringing this experience. So now you can't – eventually people won't be able to say, hey, we don't have the same opportunities at the HBCU as we do somewhere else, because it's trying to bring the staff together. Let's see 3 or 4. I think it's a win-win, because now you're giving some guys coaching jobs, because, Eddie George probably would have had a hard time breaking into the PWI world other than being a running back coach somewhere. No one's going to give him a coordinatorship, but he's starting off as a head coach. They're saying Ed Reed wants to be a head coach. There's other guys that people want to do it. Bring these guys in. Bring these guys in, let them get their teeth cut and see what's going on. And hopefully they can build it up where they don't even feel like they have to leave and go to a PWI afterwards.
Absolutely. Shameless plug, because I put together an amazing offense when it came to my non-U team, the East Orange Junior Jaguars. Any HBCU out there willing to hire your boy?
There's a barber college. I heard a barber college that was looking for a coach.
As long as they
you
pay,
might be qualified.
Give me a tricked out vehicle, though. I need the tricked out vehicle because I'm going to the hood and I'm recruiting. I can't believe that dude say that. Yeah, exactly. Man, vote B Brown, baby. All I'm saying is HBCUs. If you want, if you're looking for a coach ain't gonna be all up in your videos, exactly. I'm Suge Knight, baby. I'm good. Just come get me. Make sure you back up the Brinks truck. You know what I mean? Because I need a lot of money. But I'm willing to do it, and I got a great offense. No, I love to see that these coaches are doing this. I love to see these NFL greats are saying that there's some great talent, some great opportunities among the HBCU world. So just say no when it comes to PWIs. Just say no when it comes to shunning the talent and the opportunity at HBCU programs. I love seeing it. So shout out to Eddie George. Hopefully it works out for him. He has absolutely zero coaching experience. So technically head coaching experience. So technically I got more experience than him because I did coach the 9 and under East Orange Junior Jaguars team. All right.
Could you get January 31st to be on your staff?
Yeah, man, I would. Man, you better believe I'm skipping over that date. I don't even like January 31st. That's when Hugh Jackson. I sleep that whole day. All right, with a great story, man. Aaron Showtime Taylor did a 26-year bid in San Quentin, and is to me the model of just say no in terms of giving up. He's an announcer. He got an opportunity to announce his favorite team, the Golden State Warriors. Got a moment to be with Steph Curry, and just a real celebratory moment, man. In a week that we have dealt with the injustices among what is supposed to be our justice system and our police. I just love to see that this guy is doing his thing. He announces games on Venice Beach. Such a great story, such a feel-good story. So shout out to Aaron Showtime Taylor. He gets a mention here on the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. All right, next topic, A-Rod. A-Rod is in the building. He has gone north, and A-Rod is now a part of a ownership team that will own the Minnesota Timberwolves. KG, unfortunately, was on the wrong side of just say no. His group got dismissed very early, but A-Rod is stacking up the chips when it comes to the ownership. He is now a member of the ownership team of the Minnesota Timberwolves. What did you guys think about A-Rod? And then the second part of that is A-Rod just said no, or they just said no. He is no longer engaged to J-Lo. J-Lo got more rings than Tom Brady and everybody else, man. He just said no. Anthony Edwards, who was the first round pick last year out of Georgia, said he don't even know who A-Rod is, just to show you what Generation Z thinks about those stars that us old folks.
You're going to learn today.
You're going to learn today. I don't think I would have admitted that publicly. The new owner, I don't even know who that is. You kind of want to stroke people's ego. But what do y'all think about A-Rod being a new owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves? And did that provoke the separation from J-Lo? I'll start with you, Meredith.
I mean, if he could get it, I'm happy for any person of color that can have the opportunity to be an owner. So if he can get it and he's going to do that and be part of that ownership group, then do it. As far as him not being with J-Lo and them breaking up, who cares?
All right. Big Flo. I care only because I've admitted on this platform that Halle Berry and Serena Williams are in my top two. And we got this back and forth thing. They like me, I like them. Right. None of us are admitting it publicly, but I'll admit here. And I would think the third on that list, J-Lo's up there for me, man. So she keeps breaking up with dudes, she's trying to backdoor her way to me. J-Lo, I'm married. I'm married, but I get what you're trying to do on this, J-Lo. I get where you're trying to go on.
You know how they like to combine the name, so I think it would sound better, J-Flo. You know what I mean? How they try to use Jennifer and all that. J-Flo it would work out a little better. So if that means anything, and baby, I won't make you move to Minnesota. Don't worry about it. I think that's probably what did it for him, Minnesota. But anyway, I think A-Rod buying team is great. I like hearing ex-athletes coming around, turning on the business side. I'm so tired of hearing about people going broke. I'm so tired about people getting shysted. I love the fact that the people who are out there playing the game are now coming back and being front office people. I can't read that enough, so I'm happy to hear about it.
I agree, man. Just say no to people that define your sports career. as the only existence that you have. I love seeing I almost said J-Lo. I love seeing A-Rod.
She on your mind. She on your
yeah,
mind.
I know, man. She's straight up on my mind. From the In Living Color days. She used to be one of the In Living Color girls, man. Anyway. But I love seeing A-Rod reinventing himself and being an example to other athletes aspiring to be dominant, just as dominant as they were in the sport, be just as dominant in business. So shout out to A-Rod. Hope it works out for you. Now, I do see that we have someone listening, and I don't normally do this, but I got to pause for the cause and say, Love Dog, we started off the show. I'm going to revisit it. We started off the show talking about Kyrie calling for an all-out ban on the N-words. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that part. I mentioned you and gave you a shout out at that point because you had called upon all of us to do the same thing. Kyrie Irving is on your side, a complete and unadulterated ban of the N-words. So Kyrie Irving is on your team, Love Dog. Sometimes I give some of our loyal listeners and audience members a shout out. I had to give Love Dog a shout out. All right, last topic in 3 and a Possible is one that I wish we didn't have to talk about. And it is because we started off this show with this rendition of the 1968 CBS special of Black in America in July 1968. We fast forward to 2021, and a 20-year-old Black man shot and killed at point blank range, again seen by everyone in living color. Daunte Wright is his name. I make sure I say his name because his family, condolences to his family dealing with that. A 26-year veteran female officer shot him. She said she thought she was reaching for her stun gun. And it baffles me, in the same week that happens, you have fans, universities, administration, you have professional organizations that are upset that athletes are taking a knee. In the same week that in South Carolina, an Army vet tells a black kid, young black kid, you don't belong here, and basically pushes him. And I'm happy that he was charged with assault. And then the black community in South Carolina, I love the fact that they decided to just say no. We're not going to be treated that way. They showed up on that man's lawn in droves because we do belong here. It's about us. America does include us. And that same week, you have people upset that we're taking a knee. And so with no direction whatsoever, I know that we've all grappled with what we've seen on television. Minnesota seems in the midst of a Derek Chauvin trial. This happens in Minnesota. It seems to be harboring some of these issues that have lasted for so long. I just raise it here before we get out and allow everyone to have a moment of reflection as we deal with another tragedy. This time, his name is Daunte Wright. What say you? And we're going to be talking about in Chicago. 13-year-old kid is killed. So next week, it'll probably be that conversation. Every week, it seems like a different hashtag. I'll start with you, Big Flo. What do you think?
You know, I look at this from a bunch of different angles, and I've had these conversations, obviously not in the sports world, but just general. Is it Daunte the way they were pronouncing his name? Daunte
Wright. Yep.
Daunte, yeah. I don't know if it's pronounced differently. Daunte, in that situation, you know, I look at it how I would talk to my son, right? Things I don't want you to do. You know, watching the video, you know, he tries to elude the police and tries to escape. He tries to get out. I do think we had to take responsibility as a nation and as Black families to tell our kids things to do to survive, right? Does he deserve to lose his life for trying to run away? No. Is that an outcome when you think what's going to happen next? Possibly. I mean, when you try to pull away from somebody, you try to get in the car and you try to run off, you never know what's going to happen. I want to be fair to the situation and say this lady definitely is guilty of something. And I'm not an expert on the law. She's guilty of something. You can't shoot somebody for that. Do I believe that maybe she grabbed a taser as opposed to a gun and she thought she had a taser? From what I saw, It looks like that could have been what happened. Do I know that she would have grabbed a taser or a gun if it was a black guy or white guy in their car? I can't say that. I can't say that. For the 13-year-old child that got shot in Chicago, he was a Hispanic child.
Alex Toledo is his name.
Thank you. You know, when I first heard the story, and this tells you about the media spin, you start hearing about, well, he had a gun, he was at 3 a.m, whatever. They start to make you lose sympathy for him. The video was released yesterday. You can't see it well, but it looks like he's calmly standing there facing the police officer and gets shot in the gut. And when the police officer shoots him, by the way he's reacting, I feel like the dude realized he shouldn't have shot him. So you don't really know what's going on with these situations till you see the video. I do think that in both situations, you have to take both sides and look at the police reform and things that they should be doing different. But as families and as a father of 2, there's certain things I got to tell my kids not to do as well, right? Don't want my kid walking at 3 o'clock in the morning in the alley with a gun. I don't want my kid pulling away from the cops and trying to run away. So that may not be the most popular statement that's going to be made on the subject, but I want these kids to survive. I want mine to survive. And I think I spend more time trying to talk to people about what we teach our kids. I can't change the police. I can stand and protest, and I can do that. I can't change the way things are going to work out, but I can try to work on how my child reacts in those situations.
I will say this, and I messed up his name. It's not Alex, Adam Toledo, because I'm sure at this point we will all know the name. It's going to be a hashtag. It's going to be talked about because the footage was released yesterday. The fact that you can talk to your kids. I mean, there's so many different Americas within this one America. And a 13-year-old out that late with a gun suggests to me that there's a lot going on there that, not to get on my soapbox and be philosophical, but there's a deep story there. There's a story well beyond.
I believe a weekday at that.
And on a weekday, so Meredith, I'll let you end it, and we'll go on to what is going to be an amazing interview. So make sure that you tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody you know for this next part in our sports freestyle. Meredith, I'll let you end here when it comes to Dwayne Wright.
It was a hard week.
I'm saying Daunte Wright. Sorry.
It was a hard week for me. And I understand where T-Flow is coming from, but I also feel like, we can't stand, we can't run, we can't, it's like no matter what you do, no matter how you respond, this is still the outcome. So, there's been instances, obviously, where young Black men have, put their hands up or have walked away or turned their back, and the outcome was still the same. And I just feel all the training, every time this happens, we talk about police training, I think it was like $20 million went into training the police in that state, and this is still the outcome. And how is it that, you're a police officer, you have 26 years on the force, you don't know the difference between a taser and your gun? I don't buy it. I do not buy it. So my heart and the soul as I'm a mom with a son, 22 years old, I'm sure he was scared, just like the sergeant who was pulled over. He was afraid to unbuckle his seatbelt because he was in fear they were going to think he was reaching for a gun. So to me, my heart is just broken over it, and I feel so hurt for his parents, and I'm just gonna be praying for them, and I hope the city will stand with them as they are, and I hope change happens as a result of this. And it's unfortunate that this young man's life is lost, and he doesn't have a chance to figure things out. He doesn't have a chance to do something differently. And he got pulled over for having, air fresheners in the window. Like, that should not lead to that type of altercation. And so something else has to happen here for our sons and daughters to be able to be stopped by the police, and they can drive off and go home and return to their family.
Absolutely. I will say this: at 44 years old, I make different decisions than I did at 20 years old.
Absolutely.
At 20 years old, I made different decisions than I did at 13 years old. And this officer was allowed to resign. Now, she will face charges. But it just seems that even her resignation, allowed to resign, when you contrast that with these young people's lives being taken, it just seems unfair. So my heart goes out to Daunte Wright's family, And my heart goes out to Minnesota, because where all these riots are happening and people are frustrated, my heart goes out to America. My heart goes out to every parent that has to have that conversation with their kid. My heart goes out to all the kids that don't have a parent to have that conversation with them. In 1968, as we started with this topic, we still have identity crisis. We still have a problem here in America, especially in Black America. So my heart goes out. I don't know what the solution is, but I would be remiss if we didn't talk about it on the Ball Hog Sports Talk. So with that, we're going to hop into the second quarter. This is the part that I have been waiting on. I don't get to be around greatness that much. I get to be around Meredith. She's great. I'm not shouting you out, Flo. I'm not, because you called out my legal name. So I'm not saying you great. I said my full government name. Boy, you ain't about nothing.
Pronunciation.
You know that? You ain't
Look in the
nothing.
comment section. I will give you the pronunciation, the proper way.
Every letter of it, too. All right, man. So here we go. As I mentioned to everyone, we have an amazing guest here for our Sports Freestyle. Sports Freestyle, as you know, is where we straight up, we drop bars. And so we got a few bars to drop. We have a UCLA women's basketball great. She just finished playing. Unfortunately, ended with her season ended with the team lost, but she got injured. But yet and still, fresh off an injury, she's here at the Ball Hog Sports Talk. I've been dying to have this young lady on, and today we get the blessing of having an amazing student athlete on to the Ball Hog Sports Talk to talk about a few things. With no further ado, please welcome Ms. Lauryn Miller. What's up, Lauren?
Hi, how are you
What's
doing?
good?
Doing great. I got to give everybody the background quickly to let them know how we met. And your father, Alvin Miller, played at Notre Dame, and he had a particular person in town that looked out for him, and a Black gentleman who just loved helping people out on campus, just making sure we understood how to move around South Bend. That person, C.T. Williams was his name. God rest his beautiful, beautiful soul. His wife, Chi-Chi, always used to talk about Alvin Miller to me. We didn't play together. I was maybe a generation later, but always used to talk Alvin Miller. He's such a great guy, such a great guy. So we met on social media. I followed your career through him. Your dad likes to post a few things about you. He gonna have a whole catalog out there, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. As we fresh off talking about some of the tragedies of young people, love to see a father that is in absolute love with his daughter, love with her career. He supports it, and we support it as well. So welcome to the Ball Hog Sports Talk.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You're at UCLA, where we talked about the gymnast and their ability to just say no with assimilation. But you guys are notorious for all of these athletes. You name them. You name the athletes that have been engaged in social activism, and you too are involved in social activism. Can you talk about just the environment at UCLA? Is it welcomed? And give some of our audience members an example of the things that you've done by way of social activism at your time there at UCLA.
Yeah, I think definitely kind of you already touched on it. We definitely are standing on such grand shoulders when you come to UCLA, and the greats who come before you. You talk about Jackie Robinson, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, like you just know the legends who came before us. And so it's been cool just to get to be in an environment that does support us in that manner. And especially my women's basketball program, we got to start a diversity initiative that's called More Than a Dream. And so it's been really just focused on not only educating our program and putting educational stuff on our social media platform, but we got to start Brewing Table Talk, where we got to interview Gabrielle Union, Carrie Champion, Baron Davis, Earl Watson. And it was just a chance for our program to really back us, but we've gotten to really push and educate certain topics that you just don't learn about in school. So whether it's teaching on microaggressions, talking about the Divine Nine. So it's been a chance for us not only to educate about some of the aggressions and just the rough history of the nation, but to also just talk about Black excellence and just things of Black culture that just aren't talked about enough. And also, I got to help start Black Student Athlete Alliance, which has been the whole athletic department. And so that was really cool. It was never been existed on UCLA's campus. And so we as athletes started talking about it when George Floyd died, and then the alliance was formed officially. And so we've gotten to meet. We've talked with the new athletic director, who was the first Black AD in school history. And so we've gotten to push a lot of different stuff. There's been some different exchanges that have happened. And so our group has kind of got to lead and kind of push the change that we want our university to kind of be at the forefront of.
I saw that there was a particular runner, track and field, cross country guy there at UCLA, who was on full, I don't know about full, but he was on some form of a scholarship, transferred in. He made a few racist statements. And at UCLA, y'all didn't just let it go by the wayside. They ain't messing around with that. And I saw that you were active on trying to make sure that he faced consequences for his comments and for his behaviors. Can you tell me about how you got involved and let the people know what the outcome was?
Yeah, so these videos had surfaced of him having some choice words, and just certain words that just obviously can never be said by white people, but especially just in that nature of the conversation. And so
once Kyrie said, not by black people either.
Yeah, exactly. So once the student body found out and the video kind of went viral, things kind of started going quick. And so our Black Student Athlete Alliance actually ended up making a statement and just really calling for the athletic department, especially, to kind of take further action. There had been rumors of whether he had been disciplined or not, but we just kind of felt passionate, as much as we were talking about as a university, as a student body, about what change was going to look like and what the next steps were going to be for the nation as a whole to like heal and move forward. Then we couldn't just all stand by while we let this athlete continue to perform alongside Black athletes, especially. And so we thought it was just imperative that they really show how much everything we've been saying in the statements and the videos, they have to mean something, but it can't just be performative in that sense. And so things were definitely changed from that perspective. He's not currently on the team. And so it was definitely good to see like our administration hear us out on that and to understand that this isn't just hashtags to us, like this matters to us, and that you're not going to just let something like that just float on by when it comes to this group, at least.
Hey, Lauren, let me ask you this. You know, you hear about this activism, and I grew up in a much different era where there really wasn't enough of us to be activists on campus.
AKA you old. AKA you old.
I'm old as heck. I don't think your dad's a little older than me, so I feel bad sometimes. But anyway, so do you feel like it's, you know, I have conversations about racial equality and different things with people who are non-athletes in the business world all the time. And the word I hear a lot is divisive, right? Do you feel like that the white students consider it to be divisive? Do they try to avoid you guys, or you guys a pain in their neck in there? Or do you feel like they embrace you on campus and that they really want to be a part of change?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I only feel the ones who have felt it was divisive are the ones who actually don't support it. But instead of being very upfront about that, it's easier to say that the conversation is divisive, or that it's causing tension, and that it's really sending us in the opposite direction. And so that's been really the coolest part about my basketball program specifically, is that I have a white head coach. We have a lot of Black players, but there's still a good number of white and international players. And so none of them have ever felt that way. They love the way we've taken the time to educate them. We sit down and have really hard conversations about race and just the nature, and they need to grow, we need to grow. And so I really do think the few athletes and few white students I've encountered that have felt it's divisive are the ones who are either super uncomfortable, even potentially losing out on what privilege they might have if things were to actually change, or they just generally don't support what's being said. And so it's just an easier cop-out than just being honest and saying I'm a little too racist for this conversation.
But would you just say, just in general, more exceptions, or are those the minority, or are those more the majority, or is it 50-50? Just curious.
I think the minority. Definitely at UCLA, like you are definitely going to encounter a lot of liberal students who we're not really down for much hatred of anything, whether it's your socioeconomic background, your sexuality, your race. Like UCLA has been a really cool environment to be a part of, just to see we're a really big generation who just wants to embrace and just excel regardless of what your background is.
That's great. I'll take that plug for UCLA, even though you know it's not quite what we're affiliated with. But shout out to UCLA.
I wore for you, only for you, Lauren. I wore the closest thing to a UCLA color scheme as I have. I will say this for you, because unfortunately you got hurt in your last game. But that didn't stop you from showing up on the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. She is here with a torn ACL, a recovering MCL.
Sorry.
You guys were making a comeback. You were coming back and you got hurt in that moment. that had to be disappointing for you, just because of the camaraderie of your team. You could tell, again, through your dad, I got to watch all of it. You guys really liked each other. You could tell that you guys really liked, and it was fun to watch. But I lead with that to get to the question of, even before the injury, I think you had already decided that you weren't going to pursue basketball beyond college. And so when it comes to, we had the WNBA draft last night, and one of your teammates was drafted very highly. I'm intimidated about saying her name. Hold on, I got to read it because I'll let you say her name. That was drafted by the New York Liberty. Michaela. Say it one more time, the last one.
Michaela Onyenwere.
All our
she
audience
wasn't quite sure
know.
herself. She was like, "Man, why you gonna put me on the spot like that?"
No, she did it. She got it. That's her homie. But homie. In Florida, with all them syllables, we don't really do them that well. But you said it amazing, and she had a beautiful career as well. You saw she got drafted number 6. Sort of, what led to your decision? Because I'm sure you had opportunities. If not WNBA, you could have played overseas because you had a great career. What led to your decision? And then the second part of that question is, as you see Michaela entering the WNBA, just sort of give us what your opinion is, the WNBA, and where it stands, current status.
Yeah, so I actually knew coming into college that I really didn't want to pursue a professional career. And so a large chunk of that was, there's just so much that goes into our athletic careers. And so I've been playing basketball since I was 6 years old. And I mean, it's been like a full commitment. You always hear about the sacrifice you make to get to this level of athletics. And it's so true. You miss out on the parties, the social factor, just certain stuff. And I was okay with that. I knew what I was going to get from a scholarship perspective was well worth that trade-off. But I definitely knew just the reward that those women get is nowhere near adequate enough for the sacrifice they're making, the work they're having to put into it. And so I decided in high school that when I finished with college, I wanted to just go ahead and pursue what was next, just because I felt like the commitment you have to make and to not be getting paid what you deserve and what you've earned, that wasn't for me. And hats off to those women, but basketball for me has opened a lot of doors, and I enjoy the sport, but I don't love it enough to be sacrificing to wear my body down like that and not be getting paid what I'm worth in that sense. And so that was a big part of my decision-making factor. As the years went on in college, I had kind of considered maybe I wanted to play overseas just for the opportunity of travel, make and save some money while I'm getting to play basketball still. But the injury, I think I took as like an omen, like, okay, it's time to transition. And so, yeah, I've decided officially to hang it up, but I think I definitely still want to stay attached to sports in whatever way I can, just because it is so much ingrained in my DNA. But yeah, it was a great run though, for sure. I loved the game for every year that I played it though. And in regards to the WNBA itself, huge shout out to Michaela. We were on Zoom last night with her and her family, and I mean, like, that is like one of my best friends. Yes. And so she has been phenomenal through her years at UCLA. And so I always tell people it's so cool to see how she performs, but people have no idea just the person she is. And so that's why, above all else, it was so cool just to get to celebrate her yesterday, because character-wise, like, there's just nobody better. And she's just the best teammate. She's the best friend. And so to see her get to be celebrated on that large of a platform it was so exciting last night. And I know she'll do great in the WNBA. And so I am at least excited that the dub has come a long way, and just in the sense of the way people are finally tuning in, they're starting to support it. There's been a real push for like the pay. And though I know people always argue that the NBA brings in more money, but there's still a disparity in the fact that the WNBA doesn't even get the same percentage of its revenue. And so I think just factors like that the conversation's being had, that people are taking the game more seriously, I think is a really big deal. And so I'm excited for them. Definitely Michaela already talking to endorsement ideas and just being able to celebrate being a woman, being an athlete at the same time. And so I'm excited to see everything that she does and the doors that she continues to bust down using basketball as her platform. But yeah, I'm just so excited for her, honestly.
I want to make a quick comment because I really like that you said you went into college knowing that you weren't trying to go to the WNBA. I think there's a lot of pressures that a lot of people feel like that they have to go to college and they have to say, I want to be a pro. They have to do that, or, whatever. I like the fact that you're sitting here telling us you took you sacrificed, and this is what you're willing to give to the sport, but no more. And then after that, you want to do it. Did you feel like, was that kind of a outwardly spoken goal when you were in school that people knew you didn't want to go to the next level, or did you keep that to yourself? And if so, do you feel like that changed your experience from others that were, WNBA or bust, or guys who were, NFL or bust, something like that?
Yeah, I think definitely during the recruiting process, initially I was a little hesitant to share that because I didn't want it to come across like I took the game any less serious. Like I was still going to trainings. I still took it, very personal. Like in basketball, it was still very, very important to me, and in a sense how I was perceived. And so I definitely wanted coaches to understand, though, that my end goals were different. And so I did end up sharing it through recruiting. And so that was probably one of the coolest things, and why I picked UCLA. Just my coach, that didn't intimidate her at all. And so I appreciated the way that our program during recruiting, and even when I got here, they really talked about developing and growing the holistic woman. And so for me, that was huge because yes, I need skill development. I want to be great by the time I graduate, but I want to make sure I'm ready for the real world because that's coming a lot faster for me than it would for most athletes. And so that was definitely the coolest part. And we had talked about when I was coming in that I wanted to graduate in 3 years and I wanted to pursue or finish my master's with my 4th year. And so I got to do that. But I don't know if I would have been able to do that to the same extent if I didn't have that conversation super early coming into college. And so it definitely made a difference because the mentorship, the growth, everyone knew it was that much more imperative because I was going to hit the ground running as soon as I graduated. And so I definitely appreciated their effort and their intentionality and the fact that they didn't turn me away because of it.
As a dad, I love it. I just love it. I love somebody focused like that, knowing what you want to do, getting what you want out of it, and still giving them what they want. So yeah. I love it. Anyway, I'm done.
I'll end with this because we heard first of all, there was the hashtag not your property, not NCAA property, that both men and women were sharing in their social media platforms. But then we got to see that there was a different treatment, shall I say, in the bubble itself. When you compare the men's training facility, the weight room, and the way the accommodations were rolled out for the men, it was very different for the women. Which I'll start there. And then the second part of the question has to do with the name, image, and likeness, because I think that if there was one group of people that were harmed more about the delay of name, image, and likeness, it was probably the women athlete, because, you look at social media, there are some women, college athletes that are rocking and rolling when it comes to their social media profile, and companies and brands pay for that. So I'll start with the NCAA March Madness and that different treatment. And then going forward, sort of the state of affairs with the NCAA and this name, image, and likeness. What do you see going forward for women in making money?
Yeah, so in regards to the bubble situation, it was kind of crazy just to see everything unfold. And so you were definitely just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we're excited that a year ago, we didn't have a tournament, and we were just devastated that we were being sent home confused, and the pandemic was starting, and just things went quick. And so we were super excited this year just that they had figured out a way that we could safely play the most exciting part of collegiate basketball. And so when we got down there, it definitely showed you the power of social media, and just all of a sudden, we got there one of the later teams because we were playing on the second day. So we're seeing all these tweets fly around about we only have like 6 dumbbells and yoga mats, and the boys have this whole grand weight room. And when we got down there to see it, it really was as bad as the pictures and the video showed. And so it was definitely, I think, interesting to see the world react more so than the women's basketball community itself, because it's something we've already been aware of. And so whether it's how the media covers things, whether it's the support and the resources we get, but we definitely have always known. And so as unfortunate as it was for us to have to see that and then wait for social media to force their hand to change the weight room, I was definitely, at least in a weird way, grateful that it had happened, because without a pandemic season, without bubbles, you don't get to have that direct dichotomy of how they treat women athletes versus the male athletes. And so when you're getting a clear comparison of that, we're both in a pandemic, we've both had to deal with testing, and we're both going into a bubble that things should be pretty carbon copy. It should be almost the same thing, whether it's the swag bags being completely different. The weight rooms were different. They were giving us the cheaper, less accurate COVID tests. And it's just certain things that were being listed and just rattled off weren't surprising to us within the women's basketball world, but it was beneficial to have the outside world who doesn't know quite as much of the daily nuances that we go through. They got to see it. And so it's definitely helping. So now you have this huge conversation, and my coach just got named the president of the WBCA. And so it's definitely been cool that she's already been very vocal about that, but now that she has such a high seat, and then with this that just happened, just the platform and the opportunities have just been blown out of the water, because now you have a lot of people who didn't necessarily care to really or even know to chime in. Now you have a lot of people pretty pissed off about what they just saw. And so I think it'll be really, really good going forward. And I know the NCAA is going to know to tighten up quick here, because people already weren't too pleased with them to begin with.
And then the name, image, and likeness. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, this year it was supposed to be approved by the fall. That's what they had told us. And so I think naturally NCAA being NCAA, it's starting to be delayed, and there's conversation about what the vote's going to be on it. And so this year our program actually hired a branding company. And so though we couldn't start making money entirely, they were just helping us really refine what you're going to be posting. What's your what's your brand? What is the narrative that you're going to want people to perceive when they come on your Instagram, on your Twitter? And so while we were working through that, we were understanding the numbers of it. And like you had said, on the women's side, especially women's basketball, there's so much money to be made from just different brands. And that though people act like no one cares about us, they don't watch us, when the numbers are actually calculated out, they listed, I think, top 10 wise, girls compose like 7 of the spots of the top 10 people.
I think it was 8. I think
8 of the 10 and 10 of the 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that was cool even to see. And so I think the NCAA is always going to want to stay powerful over athletes. They're always going to make sure that we can't profit off of our names for whatever the reason. But I think it was definitely cool to see that like women are going to be the breadwinners once they do make that shift. And so I think that gives us even more credibility, in that you start to realize most of the naysayers really don't know what they're saying, and they're not really basing that off of anything credibly. And just when you look at it, when you see the numbers for the championship, viewership was up exponentially, while the boys actually went down this year for March Madness. So I think factors like that, people are starting to realize that we can hoop just the same. There's so many opportunities for us, but you just got to give us a chance. Put the games on, let us get a chance to get contracts. And so, I mean, the viewership, the fans, the support, it's there. It's just, it's kind of hard when you have the media and other big voices trying to say otherwise and trying to suppress it at the same time.
Absolutely. I'll leave with this. I'll first let you show off your UCLA hoodie. Let everybody see the UCLA. Pull up. Just look. There it is. Represent. Bruins are in the house. And then represent. UCLA is in the building. And then I know that you guys all have these customized handshakes with your team. I saw, because I followed y'all. And so just promise me after your surgery, you and I can work out one of these customized handshakes. It's going to be a Ball Hawk Sports Talk handshake. I want our audience to know, what are your plans next? And then anything that you want to shout out before we let you go. What do you plan on doing? Just hearing you in this interview, you can do just about anything that you want to do. So what are you going to choose to do from this point forward? And then shout out any cause and anything that you want to shout out. Make sure you do that before we let you go.
Yeah, so I'm super, sort of like the more than a dream stuff that I talked about. I'm just super passionate about diversity, but especially just affording opportunities to Black kids that just naturally aren't there. And so I actually had a friend who lost his life my freshman year of college. And so I'm always super passionate. Just if you give us the right tools, and if you help us really get out of certain environments and just certain paths that we just get stuck into, just the sky's the limit. And so much of the stereotypes and the stigmas that come about Black kids is really just because we're not given the tutoring, the sports teams, the music resources, just everything that white kids just naturally get, just because of the way things have been set up and the way certain school systems are set up. And so I really want to be able to, in the end, have my own foundation or nonprofit. But for now, I'm trying to stay attached to sports and diversity kind of at the same time. And so we're working on navigating what that's going to look like career-wise for me. So anybody watching has an idea, a job, let me know, because I still need one. But yeah, I want to stay in LA. I love it out there. You can't beat the palm trees and the beach being 15 minutes away. But yeah, I definitely want to keep making a difference, especially for people who look like me.
Amen to it. And since you'll be in LA, that means no matter what job you take, you can always come back to the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. It's going to be real early out there, but we will definitely have you back. You are officially one of our resident guests because that was an amazing interview, and it was amazing all because of you. So I know your dad, Alvin, but I see your mother's name's Ramona based on some of these comments in here. But a lot of these comments are really articulating how we all feel. You are a representative of what student athletes should be, and I'm happy to have you here on the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. Happy that you graduated, or have you already graduated from UCLA?
The undergrad is done. I finished my master's in June.
Go on, girl. Go on, girl. Hey, go on, girl. So you go ahead.
Bobby.
Now,
Bobby has 39 degrees.
Hey, go on.
You should do like Bobby, get you about 39 degrees. He's a career student.
Don't do that. Go make your money. Go make your money. This has been awesome. Thank you for joining us at the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. We'll definitely have you back at a later date. Your parents should be very proud. And as the Ball Hawk Sports Talk crew, we're very proud of you too. Thanks for coming on. We'll hop into the halftime quickly, y'all, and then we are going to move on to our third quarter. And y'all know what the halftime report is, brought to you by Excessive Celebration, much more than a party. We're an event on top of an experience on top of your event. All right, so let's hop in quick. And today's normally in center court, it would be prepared. Today's is going to be a freestyle. You know, we take the episode. Today's episode is called Just Say No. And Just Say No, you know what it was. It was an advertising campaign prevalent during the late 80s, early 90s as a part of this U.S. war on drugs, a war on drugs that ravished and devastated the Black community, took fathers out of homes and just made things worse. I think the intentions were pure, but the outcomes were not. And so here in the center court, we're going to repurpose this phrase just because we think that there's other ways to use this. And just say no from the other side of the use is it's really two sides of a coin when it comes to success. You know, the things that you have to do. I imagine that Lala, being a good shooter, a good rebounder, she spent hours and hours and hours perfecting her basketball craft. But in doing so, she had to just say no to distractions, just say no to parties. She alluded to it, just say no to the social life. All right. And the same thing is true for all walks of life. All right. If you want to, if you want to be someone respected, if you want to earn your keep, if you want to achieve certain things, you're going to have to just say no to a lot of other things. The CBS special at the beginning talked about or showed the child saying no to $1 because he did not want that dollar to buy off his pride. And so here in the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, we're celebrating this week in this episode the ability to just say no. And that's a word. All right, we're going to hop on into the third quarter, which is strictly business. This is going to be quick, but it's going to be effective. Bring on Big Flo, bring on Meredith. Strictly business, I was going to go in a different direction, but we got to go with the disparity between men's and women's sports. Because after having Lala on, I know that my heart is telling me, let's just have a quick but meaningful conversation about that disparity. She talked about the WNBA. The WNBA, I think, versus the NBA is the best comparison because basketball is basketball. I've said this several times. I like watching women's basketball over men's basketball. When it comes to me teaching my sons by way of watching basketball, how to play the game, we watch women's basketball. But yet in the WNBA, and people will say it's because they aren't making enough revenue. And they'll say because people don't want to see it as much as they want to watch men's basketball. It's not as exciting as men's basketball. To me, none of those things are as important as the investment or lack thereof in women's basketball. For the first time ever, after 25 years of the WNBA being in existence, they finally have a chief marketing officer. Right. But the women aren't even making the same percentage of the overall revenue as the men. I think the minimum is finally over $100,000, up from 75 or something like that. But it pales in comparison to the plus $800,000 minimum that men make. So let's start there when it comes to strictly business. I've blamed it on consumption because I am very unique in my stance on women's basketball being more I would say exciting, but it's better for me to watch with my son. It's a better
More for the
teaching
purists.
platform. It's a purist,
Yeah.
but not a lot of people would say that. Or is that true? Because when given marketing, when given the right platform, we've seen by way of the women's basketball tournament this year, people watch, they tune in. So what are we saying? Why is this pay gap so large when it comes to men's and women's professional sports, especially when it comes to WNBA versus NBA?
Well, look, if we can start off the WNBA, you got to look at the economics, right? So forever from its onset, it was subsidized by the NBA, right? So the NBA put forth this effort. Let's try out a professional women's sports. The minimum wage, like you said, was under 100. I think now it's 250 and it's going to 500,000, right? They still operated a $10 million a year loss or something like that. Yeah, $10 million a year loss. They're not. So when you look at the percentage of the percentage of the revenue that comes in, you got to take out the expenses. So you can talk about the percentage of revenue when you look at the NBA or the NFL or any other professional league we're talking about, because the expenses are way below. But you can't look at the revenue and not take out the expenses and then still say, well, we need to get the cut, because who's going to pay the subsidy? So I do think that they're making strides. One thing that you mentioned that I didn't know, and I think is a really big deal, is they just finally hired a chief marketing officer. So the argument is you're not trying, right? You're not trying to put it out there. I never watched women's basketball until Notre Dame got good at girls basketball. And then I started watching and I realized, wow, this is fantastic. And this is a really good sport. And this is a really good event. And then you start to look and say, man, so what they need to do is they need to find better ways to get people to watch it, because I think that they would like it when they watch it. And that's where the problem really starts. But from a revenue standpoint, you can't look at it and say they deserve more, because the revenue just isn't there. What they deserve more is the investment in the whole brand. And I think that when that happens, I think that everything else will take care of it. Should take care of itself.
Slight correction, because the number that you gave is the maximum that they can make.
Oh, my fault. That's the maximum. Right.
Yeah, maximum they can make. I don't know if there's a maximum when it comes to the men. Right? That's the maximum.
I think it's $1 billion a game is the maximum.
Right. Yeah, I mean, literally, like, you know what I mean?
I apologize for that mistake.
Yeah, I think Steph Curry made like 43 million just this year alone. And you compare that to the maximum of 200,000 that that's the Diana Taurasi's of the world.
But no one's losing money to pay Steph Curry $43 million. That's the problem.
But why are they losing money? Go ahead, Meredith. I'm sorry. I see you trying to jump in. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, you know, something that Lala said, and she brought up, and kind of T-Flow, you kind of alluded to it, is that the structure of the organization is not there, right? So it's not put in place so that they can be successful. And when you start to, you know, actually put the right chief marketing officer and different things in place, then you actually have an opportunity for the revenue to be there, for the basketball players to draw down on that revenue and be able to be successful. Most of the WNBA players have to play overseas in their off season in order to offset not being paid enough by the WNBA. And so what that does too is it keeps them from being able to be in the States and have marketing deals and do other things to increase their you know, their bottom line for them. So if they're spending half their time overseas and not able to do what they need to do on the business end in the States, that creates a problem. So, you know, after 25 years, you're just hiring a chief brand officer. Like, that you're not setting them up for success to be able to for the women to be able to have the right type of salary. So this idea that nobody watches the WNBA is not true. We can see that from, you know, the March Madness and how many people watched the women because it was available. When you made it available, people watched.
Especially in the COVID year. I've been dying to watch real sports. And if you look at the attendance for the games and for WNBA and you compare it to, I think, like 1986 for the NBA, it's very comparable. When the average attendance per game, very comparable.
I mean, it's about half, right, or a little less than half, but still, you think the money would be a little less than half. Now, I don't know how about the ticket prices though.
No, that's now half now. But I'm saying if you take the average attendance per game,
but I'm not minimizing it. If you think I'm sure the women would be very happy with half the money, right? You know what I mean? At this point, comparatively speaking, we'll take half. It's about half the attendance.
Yep. people would argue that because it's the cost of tickets. But what I'm saying is, if you just look at the average attendance per game for the WNBA right now, and you compare it to 25 years of NBA in existence, they're comparable, right?
Yeah.
Because you've had 25 years, you're working out the
Oh, okay.
kinks of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're comparable. Now, yeah, it's about half in terms of attendance, but not even close to half when it comes to average income. Look, we're not going to solve it now, but I think just have this conversation, right? Because Lala, someone who was a highly recruited high school basketball player, could have gone just about anywhere she wanted to go, decided to go to UCLA. Even going in, she knew that the opportunities weren't vast enough when it came to professional women's basketball for her to pursue that versus some of the other things that she was pursuing. She's a very smart young lady, and so God bless her. But she's literally the world is her oyster. She can do just about anything. But what about all of those athletes that really do want a viable option? And you alluded to this, Meredith, that a lot of the WNBA players have to play overseas. But you look at those numbers of what they make overseas, and absolutely they're going to play overseas. The only reason that they're playing here is because marketability. But the other leagues are paying people. And so I say, as an investment, if we really think that there should be a comparable option at the professional ranks, women versus men, then why not invest in, even buying some of those other leagues, right? Because international basketball is just as much a part of the NBA as anything in any Chicago streets, any New York City parks. Like, the international community we're relying on the international community in the NBA. But the WNBA, not so much. It's sort of running independent of one another. I see that the second pick in the WNBA draft, I think, was an international player. But I think from an investment standpoint, if you really wanted to do something, you could, because the opportunity is out there.
I had an opportunity this week to talk to Serena Williams, her sports agent, and we were talking about the pay equity gap. And one of the things that I asked her this question in particular, I said, with tennis being, at that point where they're playing their athletes, both men and women, comparable in most venues, what do you see as the next sport that's at the precipice of being able to be paid similarly? And her response was not the WNBA, it was women's soccer. She felt that they were the most ready.
They should be getting paid more money.
To be able to have that pay equity happen. And so I thought it was very interesting. And she also talked about the fact that beyond pay equity is how women athletes are marketed and how much say they have in their brand, and how much they can bring to the table, and how much they can demand, not only how their brand is done, but who is part of those branding teams. And that is about pay equity as well. So it's not just how much you're being paid, it's how much control you can have over who you are as an athlete and how you're being marketed.
I'll say this, and then we'll transition into the fourth quarter. I don't know if I agree with her in the spirit of soccer, just because why hasn't it happened already? The U.S. women's national team generated $1.9 million more for the U.S. soccer or association than the U.S. men's national team, right? And in recent years, and you still have this pay gap, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Women's team won 2 World Cups in that time, where the men failed to even reach their World Cup competition. And so it seems as though, like, the whole concept of just say no means that there's going to have to be investors into respective businesses that just say no to us just accepting status quo. And I think that to me, that's the worst travesty when you look at soccer, because when I think of national soccer, I think of our women. Yet our men still get paid more. How? When they have been laughable on the international scene. But yet they still do get paid more. So, all right, let's hop into the fourth quarter. I know that was a short, strictly business segment, but we're going long today because we had an amazing interview. Time well spent. Lala was amazing. And to me, she embodies everything about women's sports. It says enough is enough. Let's just say no to this status quo. Women deserve to be paid just as much as men. And we got to figure out ways to invest in the sport such that the revenue dichotomy is not.
Yeah, because baby girl's 14. Y'all got about 4 years to get this right before my baby girl gets to that level.
Volleyball, right? She was volleyball.
Yeah,
player?
volleyball. Yeah, see what's going. 4 years. I need y'all to figure it out.
4 years. There you go.
Take your
All
time.
right. Let's hop in. I love it. You know what I mean? I love it. You got to speak up for our kids, man. And I do love the fact that Alvin Miller, who's a Notre Dame guy as well, really celebrates his daughter. So we were lucky to have her on. All right, let's hop into the traffic court. And you know how it is. Traffic court is simply we're gonna have a few cases come before the court. We're gonna rule on those cases, whether or not they are reasonable or excessive. And then we're going to get out of here for the day. All right. Is everybody ready to make an argument to the judge? I get to be the judge with these amazing counselors.
I'm feeling pretty good today. I think I'm
feeling good. All right. All right. How about you, Meredith? You feeling good?
You need a stretch?
I'm gonna hang in it. Let's see what it goes. Let's see what it does.
Let's
make it do what it does.
Let's see what it
all right. So we'll start off with this. No more waiting for transfers. The NCAA says that transfers don't have to sit out a year before playing. And I'll ask this: is that reasonable or excessive? And I'll let you start, Big Flo. Transfers not having to wait a year.
I think it's absolutely reasonable. If you think about it, you have 5 years to create 4 years of playing time. Why do you lose one of those? I mean, your life is so short to live, to go through. These universities will come and go, and they're going to have celebrate hundreds of years of football, hundreds of years of basketball. I got 5 years to play for. And as a woman, same thing, 5 years to play for. Why should I have to give up something because things didn't work out the way that you promised when you sat in my living room and told me things were going to work out? I'm ready to go. If you can go, I can go. Reasonable.
Meredith, what say you?
I think it's excessive. You know, I mean, it's a difficult situation for athletes to be in, but sitting out a year, I think teaches some character. I think it makes them ready and prepared for where they're going to go. So I think it's excessive, and I think it's going to cause more problems than we think. I think, you know, T. Flo's point about, you know, having, you know, 5 years of eligibility and being reasonable. Yeah, okay, but I think it's going to cause a lot more problems than we're ready for. So we'll see what happens.
In the case of NCAA deciding that you do not have to wait a year, I got to go with you on this, Meredith. I got to say it's excessive, and I'll tell you why. I think it's just excessive because I want you to at least have a consequence of making that decision. I mean, right. These young people, Generation Z, boy, they're going to be out like tomorrow. Like, come on, man. You got to struggle through a few things because, you know, whether it be certain institutions of life, you can't just pick up and go when you're ready to go, a la marriage, because, man, you know, the divorce rate would be, instead of 50%, it'd be 99%. Everybody's wanted to go at some point. So I think sitting out the year is a consequence.
Never wanted to leave.
Boy, that's a good hug. That's how you still married right there, boy. I love that. So that's why I would say it's success. Yeah, stay married. All right, let's hop on to Creighton. Creighton, some of the commits are backing out. So one, Ty or TT, I might say that name, Washington, he decommitted from Creighton due to the coach's plantation comment that we alluded to here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk. I'll start with you on this one, Meredith. Was the player's decision based on that coach's comment, is that reasonable or excessive to decommit? I'll start with you, Meredith.
That's absolutely reasonable. You can't make those comments, and to, you know, T. Flo's point about, you know, being able to play where you want to play and all those things. You're making a decision about where you're going to play ball for 4 years, and if the coach is making those kind of comments about being on the plantation, who else, what else is he going to say? What else is he going to feel? How is he going to create you to feel comfortable playing in that state, playing in that city? Is he going to defend you if something happens? So absolutely, I feel like the young man should be playing someplace where he feels that the coach is going to look out for him. So yes, I think that's reasonable.
Big Flo.
I think it's a bit excessive. And the reason why is because you pick a school for the school, right? You pick a school for that. That coach might be gone next year. And if you really like Creighton and you really like what they were all about, you missed out because he made a comment that was there. So I don't know the background of this coach. I had to admittedly say I didn't know his name before, and I can't recall his name even today. So I don't know if he has a history of making comments like that or this is something that's part of his character. I believe he tried to say, let's not get off the reservation, which ironically has racial undertones too, but I think most people who say that don't realize that we're saying it. He may have said plantation because that's where you look and say he looked at a room full of black kids, and that's the first word that came to his mind. But I do think that that's one of those situations that you made a life decision to go to Creighton, and if you think that that one slip of the word represents the entire program, that's a lot on it. So I think it's a bit excessive.
In the case of Coach McDermott now making people decommit, is it reasonable or excessive? I got to come back to this one. I don't know. I see both sides. We're going to table this one for another one. Inconclusive, man, because I see it being reasonable where you wouldn't want a coach that makes a statement that you think is somewhat racist. But on the flip side of it, could be excessive because both the statement itself saying plantation, as someone that went to Plantation Middle School, might just be cultural for him. And I got a really, really true, but maybe painful reality to share with these young people. You were going to work among racist people. You were going to go to school and be amongst racist people. Racist people live in America. So, you know, don't let somebody else's ignorance derail you. I hope the young man goes on and has a great career somewhere else. I'm going to say this one is inconclusive for now. I will then go to the high school player who was degraded. This Moline High School football player, black player, was told to sit near banana peels. And, you know, so one of the players said, "I'll break your kneecaps if you don't do it." He sat in there, they took pictures, and the black player himself said, "I'm fine." He wants people to stop talking about the incident. And it topped at like 2.8% on Twitter, and everyone's ready to come to his defense. He wants y'all to leave it alone. So was the player's response to accept the apology of his teammate and try to move on reasonable or excessive? We're starting with you on this one. Whose turn is it? My bad.
Big flows.
Yeah. We'll start with
I'm gonna say it's excessive. And the reason why I think it's excessive is we need to look into it deeper. Because if you're so damn scared to let people back you up because you don't know what the boogeyman gonna do to you, there's no way you can convince me that this dude, unless he's just, if they had to threaten you, you obviously didn't like it. They had to threaten to break your kneecaps for you to sit in the picture, right? And then you sat there. Now all of a sudden you want to get over it. That's because they told you, "Hey, look here, boy, we will break your face if you don't shut up about this." So I think it's excessive. I think we all need to go out there and check him out, make sure he all right, do a wellness check because he's nervous. Excessive.
How about you, Meredith?
Check. I think it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable. You know, he found it in his heart to forgive his teammates. He said in the article that, you know, he had a heartfelt conversation with them and he was ready to move on. And so this is, like you said, B, that, you know, you're going to live with racist people and you have to learn how to get along and you have to learn how to you know, figure out your next moves. And maybe this is an opportunity for him to sit in that space and learn something about his character and learn about who he is. And so if he decides that he's going to forgive them, then who are we to, you know, make the demands of this kid that's not warranted by him. So if he's willing to forgive them, we got to let him forgive them and move on. We should check in on him. Absolutely. But, you know, he's got a great big heart. And sometimes, you know, like Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high.
In the case of this particular player accepting his team's apology, or the teammate's apology, I gotta say this one, I gotta go excessive because I know Michelle Obama said that, but sometimes when they go low, you gotta drop an elbow on their head while they down there, and ain't nobody gonna make me take a picture in a locker room with no banana peels on top of me. There's a line to be drawn, and to me, that's officially the line to be drawn. I want to hug that young brother and be like, "Nah, man. You got to deal with racism, but you ain't got to be a part of the circus." And literally, they tried to make him a part of the circus. So, you know, shout out to that young brother. You know, I can tell by his haircut that he ain't around a lot of black people, man. I'm going to come save you, bro. I'm taking you to the barbershop first, then we going to talk on our way back home. So I'm going to have to say excessive on that one. All right, so the Brooklyn Nets, they keep taking heat from everybody. And the latest is from the doctor, Dr. J. He says that the Brooklyn Nets are trying to buy a championship. Is it reasonable that if the Nets win the finals, that the championship is tainted as a purchased ring? I'll start with you on this one, Meredith. What do you think?
First of all, I'm BK all day, so you know how I'm going to respond to this. This is excessive. First of all,
Other teams have done it. Nobody said that when LeBron went down to Miami or went to the Lakers and brought the whole team with him. So now all of a sudden, because Brooklyn is about to stand up, now all of a sudden you got a problem with that. Brooklyn, stand up, do what you got to do to bring a championship to my city. So yes, it's excessive.
Big Flo, it's gonna be tough to beat that one. Big Flo,
I think it's absolutely reasonable. First of all, coming from Julius Irving back in the day when you had low top gym shoes, they were playing in Chuck Taylors or whatever. He couldn't even buy himself a gym shoe, let alone buy himself a championship. So this is absurd to him. The idea that you're going to go and bring all these people, Mr. Taco Meathead, and all these people, bring them together. You got the beard, all these people in one thing. You got people out here got to retire. You still going to go get by somebody else now. This is absolutely reasonable for him to say that you're buying a championship and it's tainted, especially from an old school man like Dr. J.
I never, ever want to disagree with Dr. J, but in the case of them buying the ring, I got to go American on this. It's excessive. This has become the new norm. They're not buying the ring just like we didn't buy one. I'm a Miami Heat fan. This is just the new norm, y'all. This is what people do.
That was different. That was different.
Yeah, right. That's what all LeBron fans are saying. Nah, that was different.
That was different.
That was different. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is, man. This is the new era of free agency where players, because they do discuss things through social media and they do share agents and share branding and marketing agencies, they're having conversations about where they want to play. They want to play together. They are friends. They're playing international basketball together. And oh, by the way, America, this is our fault. We have defined players' legacy by championships. So I got to go with Meredith on this one. So I'm going to say it's excessive, Dr. J. Sorry to disagree with you. All right, we're down to the final two. Steve Kerr, in all his coaching wisdom, decided to hold Steph back and not let him break the single game record for three-pointers made. He had made 11. He was out of the game, having only played 29 minutes. They beat OKC 147-109. Is it reasonable or excessive for Steve Kerr to keep Curry out of the game when he could have broken the single game record for three-pointers? I'll start with you on this one, Big Flo. What do you say?
Absolutely excessive. These games, these records are made to be broken. You give me an opportunity to break a record. I've been helping you, busting my butt all day, doing all these different things here, putting up with all my wife's antics and all this crap right here. You give me a chance for a record. You tell me I got to sit on the bench because I can't go make me. You know, he could have made him in about 30 more seconds. Just let him go. Yeah, you got 30 seconds. Go in there, break the record, go do what you got to do, go. And they didn't let him do it. That's absolutely excessive. Shame on you.
What do you say, Meredith?
I think it's reasonable. Gotta disagree with you there, Flo. I think, Steve Kerr is looking at the whole game. He's not just looking at his opportunity to break a record, right? He's trying to maintain his player. He wants to keep him safe. He doesn't want to have him get injured just so he can break a record. So he's got to look at, everything that's happening in that game and in that moment. That's what he's paid to do, and that's what he does very well. So,
you blaming it on load management?
But people have liked to have seen Steph Curry break the record, absolutely. Yeah. But they also want to see them win a championship. And if he would have got hurt or something would have happened, then they would have been blaming him. So I say it's reasonable.
I was all ready to go with you, Big Flo. But Meredith, that was a very compelling argument because the person who holds the record is Klay Thompson, who got hurt at the end of the game and has, since had several injuries, but he got hurt at the end of that series. So I think the injury factor probably played into it. So I got to go with you on this one and say reasonable, Meredith. Last but certainly not least, the MLB is backing up, meaning they're experimenting with moving pitcher's mound back 1 foot in the minor league games to see if it will increase offense in games, because a foot back means that players are probably going to make more contact with the baseball. I'll start with you on this one, Meredith. Is it reasonable or excessive to have the MLB consider moving the pitcher's mound back?
I think it's reasonable because they want to make the game more exciting at the minor league level. So whatever you have to do, that's going to make more contact with the bat, more home runs, and draw attention and draw marketing value to minor league baseball, then you need to experiment there and do that. So I think it's definitely reasonable.
What about you, Big Flo?
It's excessive. First of all, they just said they were going to redo the baseball because they were too juiced up. Then they got mad because dudes were doing steroids. Now that's a problem. Everybody doing all these different things. They keep doing. And I mean, what are you doing? This is an experiment for these pitchers. So now they got to learn how to throw from a foot further back. And what if it doesn't work? It doesn't take. Now these guys are going to try to move up, and now they can't throw the ball the right way because they've been throwing a foot back all this time. It's excessive, man. Just relax. Just let the game stand on its own 2 feet.
In the case of MLB moving the pitcher's mound back, I got to go with you on this one, Big Flo. It's excessive. Like, don't be experimenting at Spence. I'm in the minors. I'm trying to move up. Oh, by the way, it's like they keep on trying to. It's like this little magic trick. They're trying to trick us into really watching baseball again. They are really gauging the temperature to figure out what's going to work. So I'm going to say excessive. This has been an amazing track report, an amazing show. It has been the Just Say No episode of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. I'm going to get out of here, but I'm going to say bye to Big Flo and Miss Meredith before we shut it down. All right, y'all, Just Say No. And like we said during Center Court, like we said all throughout the show, Just Say No is more than just that campaign of the 80s and 90s. In order to succeed, you got to say no to certain things. In order for us as a people, as humanity, all humanity, to improve, we got to just say no to some of the hate, some of the bigotry, some of the hypocrisy that seems to be running rampant in America. As a Black community, we have to just say no to people calling us out of our name, a la Kyrie, saying that that's what we should do, and people treating us differently. Just say no when it comes to the wage gap between men and women's sports and the treatment of men and women in not only the sports world, but even in the business world. Just Say No is an active solution to us improving things. And that is where we will leave the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. Try to say that quickly 5 times. That's where we will leave the Ball Hawk Sports Talk for this week. It's the Ball Hawk Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hawk, a.k.a. the Mouth of South, a.k.a. Mr. Successful Celebration. This has been a great week. Thank you, and thank you again. Please like, please comment, please share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and make sure that you subscribe in the podcast world and ask friends to subscribe too. We is out. Peace.